The moment you stop trying is the moment they started watching. It always starts the same way, my friends. You give your heart too early, too easily. You care more than they do. You try harder. You chase. You think love is earned by effort, by loyalty, by consistency. You bend over backwards hoping they'll see your worth, and all they do is lean back further. You text them, check up on them, try to understand them more than they ever tried to understand you, and in return, silence, indifference, maybe even betrayal. You start living in your head, replaying every word you said, wondering if you were too much, too available, too emotional. You ask yourself the questions that burn holes in your chest. Did I ever matter? Was I ever enough? But let's stop lying to ourselves, folks. Let's break the illusion. If someone wanted you, you would have known. If they truly valued you, you wouldn't have had to beg them to see you. People don't miss what they never valued until it's gone. And that's where everything changes. One day, without warning, you just stop caring. Not out of spite, not out of hate. It's not a war. It's not loud. It's a quiet exit. A soft closing of a chapter. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop writing paragraphs in your notes app you'll never send. You stop trying to read their mixed signals like they're some sacred text. You don't scream, you don't post quotes, you don't tell anyone. You just vanish from the emotional space. You go still. And that stillness, it shakes them more than your chaos ever did. Let me tell you something about human nature. People only start to notice your value the second it stops serving them. When you were always there, always available, always forgiving, you were invisible. But now you've become the silence that echoes in their mind when the noise dies down. You're the ghost in their empty room, the peace that now feels like punishment. When you detach, you become rare. Not because you suddenly changed, but because they never thought you would. They thought your loyalty was forever, even if they gave you crumbs. They were wrong, and now they feel it. They scroll your profile but don't like anything. They type messages and delete them. They ask mutual friends about you, pretending they're just curious. But they're not curious. They're haunted. Because here's the twist. They weren't expecting you to stop. They weren't expecting you to finally choose yourself. They weren't prepared for the version of you that walks away without a need to slam the door. You didn't go silent for attention. You went silent for peace. And peace, my friends, is the loudest power move in the book. You became the mystery they can't solve, the closure they can't find, and in that space they start chasing. Not because they love you more now, but because you're no longer holding the weight of the relationship on your back. That's the beauty of letting go. That's the power of detachment. It doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you finally remembered that you were never supposed to lose yourself just to keep someone else. So breathe this in, my friends, because this part matters. I'm not just saying words here. This is truth. Your silence. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the sound of self-respect echoing through a room that once drained your soul. You didn't walk away to teach them a lesson. You walked away because you were done being the lesson. You stopped arguing, stopped proving, stopped chasing. And in that stillness, you became undeniable. Understand this deeply. 1,000 texts won't do what one moment of detachment can. No apology you send will ever feel as sharp as your absence. Your silence is not a pause. It's the final page of the chapter they kept rewriting with confusion and games. It's the slam of a door you didn't need to close, because they suddenly realized they're locked out and you're not coming back to open it. And that peace you're holding on to now, that calm in your chest, that's not just healing, that's power. Pure, stoic, unshakable power. The kind that can't be faked. The kind that rattles people because they thought you'd always be available, always be hurt, always be theirs to call when convenient. but not anymore. You're not the same. You don't cry over unread messages now. You don't wait for them to understand your worth. You already know it. That peace you've built, that's your shield. That's your crown. That's the thing they'll never be able to touch again, no matter how many times they come back knocking. So I want you to do something for yourself. Seriously. Type it, speak it, shout it. I want you to write this in the comments right now. My silence is strength. My peace is power. Don't just say it in your head. Put it into the world. Let the universe hear it. Let your old self see it written. That version of you that begged, that chased, that broke your own heart just to keep someone close. They need to see you take your power back, right here, right now. I'm not just asking you, I'm daring you. Comment it, claim it. And if your heart felt anything in this message, if something inside you shifted, even just a little, then show that to yourself. Press that like button, subscribe so you don't forget who you're becoming. And stay with me, because you think this was deep. Oh, my friends, we've only just begun. Number 1, the reverse trigger. You became predictable, now you're a puzzle. At first, you were easy to read. Let's be honest, your heart was wide open. You wore your feelings like a shirt 2 sizes too big, obvious, out there, vulnerable. They didn't have to guess how you felt. They didn't have to wonder what was on your mind. You were an open book, and not just any book. You were one they never had to finish, because they thought it would always be there on the shelf, waiting, familiar, predictable. But here's the problem, folks. When you become too predictable, you lose the tension that creates value in human psychology. Carl Jung once said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And in this case, the darkness was their unawareness of your value. They didn't see the light you brought until you pulled it away. And why would they? You were always there. You responded fast. You cared loudly. You tried even when they didn't. They knew they could disappear for a day or two, and you'd still be the one to reach out. That safety, that certainty, it made them lazy, careless. They stopped showing up because they knew you would. You became the constant, and they became the storm that you kept chasing through a thundercloud of confusion and hope. But one day, everything changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to send a tremor through the dynamic. You paused, you pulled back, you stopped feeding them the same predictable energy. Maybe you didn't reply right away. Maybe your messages became shorter. Maybe you just stopped checking in. And though it might have felt like nothing on the outside, on the inside, that shift was everything. Suddenly, you weren't easy to read. You weren't obvious. You weren't the open book anymore. You were a puzzle, a locked box, a room they no longer had the key to. And that uncertainty, it triggered something primal inside them. Let me drop some psychological truth here. The human brain is addicted to what it can't fully predict or understand. Certainty is comfortable, but mystery is magnetic. It creates a loop in the mind, a puzzle that has to be solved. And now that your energy has changed, they can't stop trying to decode you. Why aren't they texting like they used to? Did they find someone else? Why does their silence feel so loud now? They won't say these questions out loud, but trust me, they're thinking them. Because when someone's entire identity was built around you always being available, your distance becomes a threat. It disrupts their ego. It forces them to wonder. And wondering is powerful because it brings attention, and attention is the first step toward obsession. You might ask, why does it have to be this way? Why do people only chase when you pull back? The answer is uncomfortable but necessary. Most people don't realize what they have until it stops serving them in the way they're used to. We take elevators for granted until we have to take the stairs. We ignore sunsets until we move to a city with no sky. And we dismiss love when it's easy until it becomes rare. Your predictability was comforting, but it made them blind. Now, your mystery keeps them up at night. And here's where it gets hard, my friends, because pulling back doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels scary. It feels like silence. It feels like maybe you're losing them for good. You might sit there thinking, what if I'm pushing them away? But let me tell you, if silence pushes someone away, they were never planning to stay. You're not losing them. You're finally letting them reveal who they are without your constant presence as a cushion. You're taking the test of their true intentions. And that test only starts when you stop giving the answers. They might not come back right away. They might not even say a word. But the shift has begun. Your new silence is their new obsession. And the longer you stay in your peace, the more they feel that absence wrap around their thoughts like a question they can't escape. What happened to the person who used to care so much? Where did they go? Why does this feel like a punishment when they're just living their life? They don't get it yet. But that's the point. The not knowing is the trigger. Let this be your power, not your pain. You didn't become cold, you became calm. You didn't ghost them, you grew past the need for their approval. And in doing so, you became something they didn't expect. An unanswered question. And my friends, unanswered questions echo louder than love songs. So here's your reminder. What feels like loss is actually leverage. What feels like distance is actually direction. You're no longer the predictable pattern in their life. You're the plot twist, the wild card, the one they can't quite understand but can't seem to forget. And that's the energy that changes everything. Repeat this right now in the comments. I am not a pattern, I am power. Write it. Don't just think it. Write it below and mean it. Let your old self see it. Let your future self feel it. Type it out and take your identity back. Number 2. Silence is a mirror. It forces them to see themselves. Let's talk about silence, my friends. Not the kind that happens when you run out of words, but the kind that arrives when you finally understand that your worth doesn't need to shout to be known. The kind of silence that isn't empty, but full of power, full of boundaries, full of truth. You see, when you were always available, always explaining yourself, always giving them your attention, they never had to look too closely at themselves. You were the distraction, your love, your effort, your loyalty. It was their escape from accountability. Every time they made a selfish choice, they didn't have to sit in it. Why? Because you were there to forgive, to understand, to fix it before it broke too much. But now you've gone quiet, and it's deafening. They don't have your voice in their ear anymore, reassuring them, calming their guilt, making sense of their chaos. There are no more long texts to smooth it over, no late-night calls to make them feel okay about treating you like a backup plan. You've taken away the one thing they never thought they'd lose, your validation, and now they're stuck with themselves. Silence is a mirror, folks, and when you hold that mirror up in front of someone who's been hiding behind ego, it rattles them badly. Now they're not just sitting with the absence of you, they're sitting with the presence of everything they did wrong. Did I mess this up? Why aren't they chasing me anymore? Do they even care now? Those questions, they're not harmless, they're heavy, and the longer your silence lasts, the heavier those questions become. It's not just curiosity anymore, it's anxiety, it's regret. It's a slow-burning realization that they might have let something irreplaceable slip right through their fingers. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And that's exactly what your silence is forcing them to confront: their own soul, their selfishness, their emotional immaturity, all the moments they chose games over growth. At first, they'll try to distract themselves. Maybe they'll talk to someone else, scroll through social media, go out, but none of it hits the same, because your silence follows them like a shadow. It lives in the pauses between songs, in the quiet moments before sleep, in the way their phone doesn't light up with your name anymore. The ego that once thought it could mistreat you and still have you wrapped around its finger is now unraveling, because the game only works when you keep playing, and you've stepped off the board. You didn't announce it. You didn't make a scene. You just stopped. And they don't know what to do with that. They thought silence would mean they won, but this isn't their victory. It's your awakening. This silence, it's not empty. It's sacred. It's the boundary they never thought you'd have the courage to build, and now it's the only thing they can feel. So don't break it. Don't rush to fill the space just because the discomfort is loud. That discomfort, that's where growth happens, not just for them, but for you. You're not punishing them, you're finally prioritizing you, and that's the most powerful thing you can do. Type this in the comments right now. My silence speaks truth. Write it, own it, let it settle into your bones. Number 3, the value shift. They only count the gold when it's missing. People don't count the gold while it's still in their hands. They only panic when it slips through their fingers. That's the brutal part of human nature, my friends. When something feels guaranteed, we stop treating it as valuable. And when someone like you shows up, real, loyal, grounded, they assume you'll always be there, until you're not. You were more than just nice. That word doesn't even come close. You showed up when they didn't ask. You stayed through their moods, their distance, their hot and cold energy. You made them feel safe, even when they weren't giving you anything to hold on to. And they thought that was normal, just part of the deal. But here's what they missed: your love, your care, your presence. It was gold. Not the flashy kind people post on stories. Not the fake kind that burns out after a week. You were the rare kind. The kind of energy that can't be faked, replaced, or replicated. But because it was consistent, they didn't see it. Because it didn't leave, they didn't question it. And that's where the shift begins. You pulled back. Maybe not fully. Maybe you just stopped initiating. Maybe you stopped offering comfort when they treated you like an option. Maybe you just decided you were done proving your worth. And the second your emotional presence faded, the room felt colder, emptier, quieter. That's when it hit them. They didn't lose a nice person. They lost their safe place, the one who truly saw them, the one who never had a mask on. And now, even if they try to fill that space with temporary people, shallow conversations, or fake affection, it won't stick, because your energy set a standard. Carl Jung taught us that the psyche is constantly seeking wholeness, and when someone experiences a genuine connection, it leaves a psychological imprint. So even if they don't know why, they miss you deeply. It might not be instant. People don't always wake up right away. But when they do, it hits like a storm. Suddenly, the boring you becomes the one they can't forget. Suddenly, all those things they brushed off, the way you listened, the way you stayed present, the way you understood, become sacred. They look back at their decisions and feel the weight of their arrogance. They start to see that what they walked away from wasn't just another option. It was rare. And here's what makes it even more painful for them. They can't rewind. They can't undo the moment they overlooked you. That window is closed, and now they're chasing shadows, hoping someone else can recreate what you gave so freely. But it doesn't work that way, because people can copy your style, your jokes, your words, but they can't copy your soul. You were the gold they only learned to count after it was gone. That's the shift. That's what creates the obsession. Not because you're playing games, but because your value finally had space to shine without you having to prove it. So hold your ground. Don't rush back just because they suddenly remember who you are. Let them sit in the emptiness they created. Let them feel the weight of what they lost. You didn't change, they just finally opened their eyes. Write this in the comments right now. I am not replaceable. Say it. Mean it. Let the world hear it from you first, before they come crawling back. Number 4. The emotional imprint. You left a mark they can't erase. Let's talk about the mark you left behind, the one they pretend doesn't exist, but feel every time they close their eyes. You see, not all impact is loud. Sometimes the most powerful memories are built in silence, in softness, in the tiny moments they didn't realize mattered until it was too late. You weren't just present. You were there in a way most people aren't anymore. You remembered the little details. You asked the questions no one else did. You made them feel seen, even when they were showing you their worst. You held space for their chaos, even while they made you feel invisible. And they thought they could forget that. They thought they could walk away untouched. But emotional energy doesn't work like that. Real connection leaves a scar, invisible but permanent. It's called emotional imprinting, my friends. And it's not poetic, it's psychological. It means that your presence got hardwired into their nervous system, the sound of your laugh, the comfort of your silence, the way your voice softened when they were breaking. Those things don't fade just because the relationship did. At the time, they didn't give it a second thought. Maybe they even took it for granted. You were always there, always willing, always listening. But now that you're gone, now that your warmth has turned to distance, the absence of you feels like a cold room they can't heat up again. Late at night, when the noise dies down and the ego quiets, those moments replay. Your name echoes in their mind, not in a romantic way, but in a real way, in the way people remember the one person who understood them, the one who didn't run when things got hard, the one who gave more than they asked for, even if they're with someone else now. It's not the same. They smile, they laugh, they pretend. But deep inside, there's this ache, because no matter how good it looks on the outside, they know it's not you. It's not the way you made them feel. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And you, my friend, transformed them. Even if they act like they've moved on, they carry parts of you with them. Your voice, your kindness, your loyalty. It's woven into them now, whether they want it or not. And here's the part they don't want to admit. They didn't think you would walk away. They thought they could always come back, that you'd always be available, always forgiving. But you changed. You grew. You healed. And now your energy is no longer on tap. That's what's haunting them, not just the loss of you, but the loss of access to you. So let them miss you. Let the silence speak. Let those memories play on loop in their head. That's not your burden anymore. That's theirs. You did your part. You showed up fully. And now they get to live with the echo of everything they once ignored. Comment this below. I left a mark. Write it, believe it, and never shrink just because they couldn't hold on to something real. If this touched something in you, if you know they still feel you, then press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. You're becoming unforgettable, and we're just beginning to uncover the truth. Number 5. The ego collapse. They thought you'd never stop trying. They built an empire off your effort, my friends. Every time you reached out first, every time you double-texted, every time you asked, "Are you okay?" When they hadn't even earned that kindness, they fed off it. They didn't just enjoy the attention, they absorbed it like a drug. Your validation became their supply. Your emotional labor was the throne they sat on, and your love was the crown they wore. But the day you stopped trying, the whole structure began to crack. You see, ego is fragile. It looks confident on the surface, but it's built like glass, shiny, reflective, and easy to shatter once the light shifts. And when someone has spent months, maybe years, seeing themselves through your attention, the second that reflection disappears, they panic. They don't show it, of course. They still post like everything's fine, still walk around like they're the prize, but underneath all that performance, their ego is starving. Because what they miss isn't just you. They miss the version of themselves they saw through your eyes, the version where they were adored, chosen, rescued. They thought you'd never stop trying. They bet on your heart being weaker than their pride. They were sure you'd come running, no matter how many times they slammed the door. But now the door is open and you're nowhere to be found. That silence, that absence, it's not just inconvenient. It's ego death. Carl Jung taught that the ego isn't the enemy, but a necessary mask, and when that mask is no longer propped up by outside admiration, the person behind it has to face who they really are. And for them, that reflection is hard to look at. They're not the confident person they pretended to be. They're someone who pushed away the only person who truly cared. They're someone who treated love like a game and never thought the other player would walk off the field. And now they're stuck in their own head, wondering why it feels so hollow, why no one else quite measures up, why every new connection feels forced, why the compliments don't hit the same. It's because they're no longer being seen the way you saw them. Even if they don't admit it, they feel it deeply. They're addicted to the echo of your admiration, the way you used to light them up with your attention, and now that echo is gone. Let them feel it. Let the silence sting. This is the part where they get to sit with the loss. This is the part where you stay grounded in your peace. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to fight for your place in anyone's life, because the collapse of their ego isn't your responsibility. It's the cost of their arrogance. So say it with me now. Write it in the comments. I took back my power. Say it like you mean it. Say it like the version of you who finally stopped begging and started breathing again. Number 6. The dopamine crash. Your absence feels like withdrawal. You were their dopamine drip, my friends. A quiet rush. A soft hit of emotional adrenaline they didn't even realize they were hooked on. It was subtle. Your good morning texts, the way you checked on them when no one else did, the consistent care you gave without needing applause. Every time they opened their phone and saw your name pop up, it gave them a feeling, a little spark, a little high. Even if they didn't show it, they got used to it, depended on it. But here's what they never understood. That kind of emotional supply has a limit. When you pulled away, it wasn't just your voice that disappeared. It was the chemical reward they were used to, the comfort, the validation, the attention. And now their body is craving something their mind can't fully explain. That's how real this is. This isn't just emotional, it's neurological. Let me break it down. Every time you gave them attention, especially when they didn't earn it, their brain got a hit of dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter that makes people feel pleasure, satisfaction, a sense of reward. They didn't even have to give much in return. You were the one keeping the line alive. And now that you're gone, the brain doesn't know how to cope. It's withdrawal, straight up. Just like someone trying to quit a substance. They keep checking their phone. They check your page late at night, watch your stories, but never react. scroll through your posts looking for a sign you miss them. They can't help it because your presence once trained their mind to expect a rush. And now that rush is gone. Even if they're out pretending to be unbothered, even if they're with someone new, even if they post like life is amazing, that silence in their chest, that restlessness, that's the crash. That's their brain searching for the hit that only you gave them. You didn't just give them attention, you gave them emotional safety. Your care made them feel seen. Your presence made them feel important. They won't admit it, but they felt like somebody in your world. And now that you're gone, they're questioning who they even are without you. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what's happening now. They don't realize why they can't stop thinking about you, why your name still rings in their head, why they feel so off. But it's not fate, it's science, it's memory, it's emotional history. And here's the powerful part. You didn't do anything to make them feel this. You just stopped. You stopped overgiving, you stopped chasing, you stopped being their personal therapist, their comfort blanket, their emotional fix. And the second you did, the world didn't just feel different, it hurt. Because once someone gets used to real, they can't go back to fake. Once they've been loved with depth, no shallow connection will satisfy. So don't look back, don't feel guilty. This crash they're feeling, it's not your punishment, it's their consequence. You didn't cut them off out of spite. You just stopped leaking your energy into a cup that never poured anything back. Write this in the comments. I am not their fix. Say it with power. Let the version of you that used to beg for scraps hear you claim this. Number 7. Your glow-up. Hurts them. Detachment. Looks good on you. Here's what really burns them, what keeps them up late, scrolling your page with that sinking feeling in their chest. You didn't just walk away, you leveled up. You didn't fade into the background, you didn't disappear in shame, you glowed, quietly, powerfully, not for revenge, not for attention, just for you. And that glow, that peace on your face now, that stillness in your energy, it's louder than anything you could have ever said. See, detachment has a look. It's calm, confident, clean. It's not cold or cruel. It just doesn't revolve around anyone anymore. You're not chasing, you're not hoping, you're not playing games or waiting on their crumbs to feel worthy again. And they see it. Oh, trust me, my friends, they see it. Even if they don't like, even if they don't comment, even if they pretend not to watch, they're watching. And what they see, it hurts. Because once upon a time, they were the center of your attention. Your world tilted toward them. You lit them up with your loyalty, your presence, your time. But now the light's coming from you. And they're standing in the shadows, trying to make sense of how they lost something they thought would never stop shining for them. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's exactly what you've done. You've stopped trying to be what someone else needed. You stopped shrinking yourself to fit their comfort zone. You became you, unapologetically, fully, without waiting for them to approve. And now, here's the painful truth for them. You've become untouchable. Not because you blocked them, not because you said something cruel, but because your energy no longer needs them. You're no longer orbiting around their silence or their validation. You're grounded in your own power, and that's something they can't reach anymore. That glow-up wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual. Your soul got lighter. Your mind got sharper. Your heart stopped begging and started beating freely again. And people chase what they can't control. When you were available, they could pull your strings. They knew what to say to keep you close. They knew how to push and pull and watch you bend. But now that you're detached, now that your peace isn't tied to their attention, they've lost control. And that loss? It burns their ego in silence. They won't tell you this, but they wonder about you every day. How did they move on so fast? Why do they look better without me? Were they always this strong and I just didn't see it? Yes. Yes, you were. They just weren't looking. So don't tone it down. Don't dim your shine to make them comfortable again. Let your silence do what your words couldn't. Let your glow remind them of what they threw away. And don't let their silence fool you. They feel everything. Write this in the comments right now. I'm glowing for me. Say it like you mean it. Let that version of you who once begged for their attention read those words and smile. Number 8. They always come back. But it's never the same again. They always come back, my friends. That's the part no one warns you about. After the distance, after the silence, after you've finally learned to breathe without them, they return. Not with fireworks, not with deep apologies or grand gestures. No, it's subtle. A like on your story. A "Hey stranger." Was just thinking about you. But you'll know exactly what it is. It's not a coincidence. It's not harmless. It's them testing the waters because something inside them is unsettled. You'll feel it in your gut. The shift in their tone. The way they tread carefully now, not like before, because they can sense it. You're not the same person they walked away from. You're not desperate. You're not waiting. You're not even angry. You're detached. And that detachment, it rattles them. You see, the person they left was vulnerable, open, soft, hopeful. The person they're reaching out to now, strong, calm, unavailable. They thought your silence meant defeat, but it was growth. It was healing. It was you rising so quietly they didn't see the transformation until it stared them in the face. And let me tell you something raw and honest. They're not coming back because they suddenly discovered your worth. They're coming back because you discovered it. Carl Jung once said, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life." And that's what they're running into now, a version of you they never met. One that isn't built around pleasing others or waiting for breadcrumbs. One that knows their worth and doesn't need anyone to remind them. They come back because their ego needs closure, because the game doesn't work anymore, because the energy they once fed off has been rerouted to you. They're haunted, not by your presence, but by the fact that they can't reach you the way they used to, that their charm doesn't affect you, that your heart no longer skips a beat when they show up, that you don't flinch, you don't react, you just exist, untouched, unbothered, and unmoved. And here's the part they'll never say out loud. They know they can't hurt you again. That part of the story is over. The leash has snapped. The spell has broken. The power has shifted. You took your time, you healed in silence, and now you walk with a kind of peace that scares people who once fed off your chaos. So let them come back. Let them see the new you. But remember, you're under no obligation to open the door they once slammed. The version of you they miss doesn't exist anymore. Comment this below right now. I've changed for good. Let your old self read it. Let the universe feel it. Let them feel it. And that, my friends, brings it all full circle. When you stop caring, they start chasing. Not because they've changed, but because you have. You're no longer their comfort zone. You're their wake-up call. So keep walking in your power, keep choosing peace over chaos, and never forget, you were always the prize. If this message stirred something in you, show some love, like this video. Subscribe to stay grounded in your worth, and share it with someone who needs this truth today. Your healing is power. Your silence is strength.